So now we will start our last chapter, that is tunneling, our last chapter of this SILA subject. It is tunnel engineering. So in this, we will going to cover what is meant by the open cuts, what are the surveys that are required for tunneling, criteria for selecting the size and shape of the tunnel, then driving the shafts in the hard ground, in the soft ground, then mucking, dust control, ventilation, lightning and drainage, and special methods of the tunnel. Okay. Now we will see the first term, that is the open cut. Open cut means what? Instead of going for the tunneling, we can cut that portion. Okay, from the top. Okay, see here, what is the open cut? Instead of going the tunneling, we can cut that portion from the top, that is called as open cut. Okay, this is beneficial where the tunnel is at lower height. Okay, means the tunnel is from the 10 to 15 meter from the ground level. Okay, means up to the 20 meter. If the tunnel, we are constructing the tunnel up to the 20 meter of the depth from the ground level, then it can be suggested to go for the open cuts. Open cuts are beneficial than the tunnel in that case. Okay, so it is open to sky passage excavated through the huge soil mass like a hill, etc. Okay, what are the advantages of this? It requires lesser time for the construction compared to the tunnel. As compared to tunnel, it will take the less time. Okay. Also, it will not require the large machines like the TBM, tunnel boring machines that you might have seen. That much amount large machines that are not required for the open cuts. The construction cost will be the lesser as compared to the tunnel. If the open cuts exceeds 20-meter depth, the tunnel can be provided. Okay, because there are certain disadvantages if we go for more deep. Unsafe during the aerial welfare and the bombing on the city. Okay, if the aerial warfare it is there, if the war condition it is there, aerial warfare or the bombing will be there, then open cuts are not safe. If instead of open cut there are tunnel, the tunnel are safe for the warfare. Okay, if the bombing is there, it requires the locomotive and the automobiles with the higher tractive force due to the gradient. Okay, the more amount of bulky amount of earthworks that we need to transfer, so it requires too much automobiles and locomotives. Maintenance cost is also high. Natural forces like the snow, rain will be very much effective. Okay, if tunnel is there, it cannot affected by the snow or rainfall. If the open cut is there, it can be affected by the snowfall, rainfall. It requires the large length as compared to the tunnel. Okay, longer length is required for the open cut as compared to the tunneling. Okay, if the depth of the open cut is more than 20 meter, then tunneling is good. Then open cut is not suggested in that case. If the depth of the tunnel is less than 20 meter, then open cuts are suggested instead of tunnels. So what do you mean by the tunnel? Tunnel is an artificial underground passage to bypass constructed safely without disturbing the overburden, that is the land over it, to carry the passengers, sewage, goods, water, etc. Okay, whatever the passengers or whatever the land it is there over the tunnel, that will not be disturbed. We will construct artificially underground passage to travel the passenger to for the sewage, also for the carrying the goods and waters. Okay, so classification of the tunnels according to the alignment, how the alignment is there. If the straight alignment is there, spiral alignment is there, along the slope it is there, in the valley. Okay, depending on the alignment, tunnels are classified as off spur tunnel, Obspur tunnel is nothing but what? It is very short length tunnel to negotiate the minor local obstacles. Okay, it is constructed direct, straight, and it is very short length. Okay, are called as the obspur tunnel. Saddle or base tunnel, these are constructed in the valley along the natural slope of the valley. Okay, along the valley, these tunnels are constructed. Then the slope tunnel, these are constructed when there is a steep slope, steep hills are there. In that region, slope tunnels are constructed. Then the spiral tunnels, these are provided narrow valley in forms of the loops to increase the length of the tunnel in the mountain. If we construct in the loop in the mountainous area like a spiral, then such tunnels are called as the spiral tunnel. Okay, so according to the alignments, tunnels are classified as obspur tunnel, saddle or base tunnel, slope tunnel, and the spiral tunnel. Okay. Then according to the purpose, conveyance tunnel and the traffic tunnel. Conveyance means what? To carry the water, to carry the sewer. Okay, these are called as conveyance, and traffic to carry the highways, railways, pedestrian traffic, navigation of the subways. Okay, small subways can be constructed. So to carry the traffic, such tunnels are called as traffic tunnel, and to carry the water, sewer, that are called as conveyance tunnel. Then classification according to the type of material that we are used. What type of the material that we are used, depending on that. Tunnel in the hard rock, in what material we are constructed. If there is a hard rock, tunnel in hard rock. If there is a soft soil material, tunnel in the soft material. Tunnel in the quicksand. If there is a quicksand, tunnel in the quicksand. And last is the open cut, if we go for the open cut. Tunnel underneath the river bed also is constructed in the water bearing soil. Okay, so these are the classifications of the tunnel. Then size and the shape. Okay, how we can decide the size of the tunnel, shape of the tunnel. So the size of the tunnel is decided by considering the certain factors that are purpose of tunnel, for what purpose we are constructing. Depending on that, size of the tunnel is constructed. Then the thickness of lining, how much lining that we are going for. Okay, means like for the building we are going for the plastering in such a way that we go for the lining of that tunnel. We can see the lining of canals, etc. Likewise, lining is also required for the tunneling also, so that the material should not get fall during the use of the tunnel. Then the provision required for the drainage facility, whether we how provide the drainage, how much amount of drainage is required to provide, what type of drainage that is required to provide, depending on that, size can vary. The clear opening required to handle the traffic. Okay, how much traffic it is there, whether we require to construct only for one-way traffic, whether we require to construct for two-way traffic, depending on that, size of tunnel get varies. Okay, for one-way traffic and for two-way traffics. And the nature of traffic. Okay, what kind of traffic it is there, whether the roadways are there, railways are there, pedestrian traffic is there, depending on that, size of the tunnel may get varies. Okay, so these are the factors that are considered for constructing or for deciding the size of tunnel. That is the purpose of tunnel, how much should be the lining for that tunnel, the drainage facility that is provided, clear opening, how much required, depending on one-way traffic it is there or two-way traffic is there, what kind of traffic it is there, pedestrian traffic, railways, roadways. Okay, so depending on that, size of the tunnel varies. Then shape. So shape of the tunnel depends on the nature of soil through which the tunnel is driven. Okay, what kind of the soil it is there, depending on that. Then purpose of tunnel for which it is constructed. If it is constructed for carrying the roadway, we need to provide the flat at the bottom. Okay, if we are constructing for the carrying the severe water or sewage, then we need to provide the circular portion at the bottom. Okay, so depending on the purpose of the tunnel, for what purpose we are constructing, the shape will get varies. And the pressure of ground, how much pressure of that ground it is there. Okay, if we provide the flat, the pressure will be more. If we provide the rounded shape, the pressure will get minimized. So depending on the pressure on the ground also, the shape of the tunnel varies. The first shape is the circular. You can observe here, I have drawn by the figure given here. The circular shape is the best theoretical section for the resisting the internal and the external pressure. Okay, if there is the internal pressure or the external pressure it is there, the best way to protect that pressure is by driving the circular tunnel. It will provide the more cross-sectional with the less perimeter. Okay, it will use the more cross-sectional area with the less perimeter that we have heard before. The circular section will use the more cross-sectional area with the less perimeter. Best suitable for the non-cohesive soil. Okay, once it is asked. Okay, so see here, the circular tunnel, it is very best suitable in which type of the soil? Non-cohesive soil. If there is non-cohesive soil, the circular tunnel are constructed. Suitable for the tunnel driven by the shield method. There are different methods of driving this tunnel depending on the soft rock or the hard rock it is there. By the shield method, we can go for the construction of the circular tunnel. Not suitable for the road and the railways as more filling is required. As you can see, if we have to provide the highway, the bottom should be the flat. Okay, but in the circular, if we have constructed the circular tunnel, bottom is circular way. So we need to go for the filling in that bottom area, then make that bottom area plain, and by then we can construct the highway. So it will require more cost. It will take more cost. Okay, so circular tunnels are not suitable for the traffics. That is for the constructing the highway, for constructing the railways. It is not suitable. These are more suitable for what? For carrying the water, sewer, etc. Okay. Mostly suitable for the sewer and the water carrying purpose. These shapes are more difficult for placing of the concrete lining. When we are going for the concrete lining, these shapes are very difficult. As it is circular in shape, the lining is difficult. Then second is the D shape or the segmental roof section. Mostly we can see this such type of the tunnels for the roadways, railways. Okay, it is most suitable for the rock tunnel. In the rock tunnel, we are providing such type of the tunnels. It is suitable for the subway or the navigation tunnel. Okay, in the navigation means transportation. For the navigation also, such tunnels are very suitable. Due to the flat roof, it is more suitable for the movement of the equipments as well. Okay, more working spaces there is available on the floor driving. Okay, as there is the floor is flat, it will give the more working space. Okay, on the floor. This is mainly constructed for suitable for the subway or the navigation purpose. Then you can see egg shaped, as its shape is like egg. Such are called as the egg shaped. This is most suitable for the sewerage, carrying the sewage. This is very important. Such type of the tunnels are constructed to carry the sewage water. Maintain the self-cleaning velocity flow in the dry and the rainy season. Why these tunnels are famous? These tunnels are famous for maintaining the self-cleaning velocity. Okay, what it gives the self-cleaning velocity, so that these tunnels are used for the carrying the sewage. Okay, this is the reason why these tunnels are used for carrying the sewage, because it have self-cleaning velocity. The circular side walls will resist the more amount of the internal and the external pressure. As though outer walls are the circular, it will take the more pressure. If the walls are circular, it will carries the more pressure. If are flat, it will that it will not carry that much pressure as the circular wall can carry. Then elliptical section we can go for. Since it have the narrow base, it cannot be used for the traffic. As in elliptical shape, there is a narrow shape below. Okay, so it cannot be used for the traffic. If we go for the use of this traffic, then we need to fill the base area. So ultimately the cost will get increased. So such type of the cross section we will not use for the traffic. It can be used for the soil soften the rock. When there is a soft soil rock, soft soil it is there, in that area elliptical section is preferred. Suitable for the sewer and the water transportation. Just a minute. Okay, so we are discussing about the elliptical section. Since it have the narrow base, it cannot be used for the traffic. It is constructed in the soft soil. The sewer and the water transportation, it can be achieved by this elliptical section. Since the major axis kept vertical, it raises the external pressure. So in the large extent, okay. As the elliptical shape it is there circular and the major axis is vertical, it will resist the more external pressure of the soil. The next is the horseshoe shape section. Okay, you can see here in the figure I have drawn a shape. It is most popular section which having the semicircular roof, arches, sides, and a curved inwards. It is most commonly used section for the traffic. Okay, for the traffic condition, it is most commonly used. It is difficult to construct as the shape is difficult. You can observe here. So it is while constructing it feels difficult to construct this shape. The floor is almost flat, which gives the more working space. As the floor is flat, it gives the more space for the working condition. Most suitable for the soft soil. After the layer, the section will offer the more resistance to the external pressure. As you can see, sides are the curved in section. If the sides are curved, it will give the sustain the more external pressure. Okay, so horseshoe shaped, these are the mostly used tunnel for the traffic. Okay, as such are constructed in the soft soil. Then next is the rectangular section. It is mainly used for the pedestrian traffic and the animal traffic. Okay, pedestrian traffic and the animal traffic areas. It is suitable for the hard rock only. Rectangular tunnel are mostly used in the hard rock. It is very costly to construct as well as difficult to construct. Okay, it is very costly as well as difficult for the construction, and such tunnels are generally constructed for the pedestrian traffic and the animal traffic. Okay. In order to maintain the desired shape of the tunnel, the cross section of the tunnel must be checked at the regular interval of 2 to 3 meters. Okay, whether the cross section of the tunnel is properly maintained or not. How we can check? We can have to go for the inspection at the regular interval. Okay, by the interval of 2 to 3 meters, we need to go for the checking of the what the cross section, whether the cross section of the tunnel is maintained or not. That inspection is required for maintaining the proper cross section of that tunnel. Okay. So this is the rough figure that I have drawn here, how the cross section of tunnels looks like. If I provide the railway track at the side drains are provided. That if there is a water, the whip hole we can provide to drain out the water. Okay. Then how to go for the alignment of the tunnel. It is the process of locating the center line position of the ground. On the ground, we can give the center line of the tunnel, and then we can transfer it towards the required depth by providing the shaft. In the surveying, you might have learned in the surveying, there is one portion in the survey, how to transfer the alignment from ground to the underground by using the shafts. Okay, that you might have learned in the survey. By using that process, we transfer the alignment from the ground to the required depth by using what? Shafts. By providing the shafts at the regular interval, depending on the topography, that interval will vary. Then investigation studies to the construction to get the following information. What the information that we need to collect? Origin of the soil mass, what kind of soil it is there, hydrology of that surrounding proposed tunnel site. In that surrounding of the tunnel, hydrology, how the hydrology it is there. Okay, hydrology in that, what we need to study, the rainfall in that area. Okay, how much rainfall it is there, how much centimeter rainfall it is there, by measuring that rainfall by the rain gauges. Okay. Presence of the foul gases, whether the foul gases are there in that region, temperature of that soil, temperature around there, physical and mechanical strength, properties of that soil mass, location of the weak geological features like the whether the faults are there. Okay. We need to also check the faults, whether they are present in that area, because that also affects when there is the construction. Then when we go for the construction of the tunnel. Okay. Then when constructing the tunnel, what are the stages that are investigated? The first one is the stage of investigation before the planning of tunnel. Second is the investigation at the timing of planning. And third is the investigation at the time of the construction. What the investigations that we need to go for before planning the tunnel, at the time of planning, and at the time of construction. Okay, so at these three stages, we need to go for the investigation. So in the first investigation before planning of the tunnel, so it includes geological investigations. Okay, how the geological condition it is there, whether the faults are there, then we need to investigate. Electrical resistivity method are used to locate the position of the weak zones like the faults, shear zones. Okay, that we need to check, and these are checked by the electricity resistivity method. Electrical resistivity method is used for locating such zones, weak zones. Then investigation at the time of planning, it includes, and it made by the drilling the hole by the percussion, rotary percussion, and the rotary. Okay, what we'll do, we'll take the hole by the percussion or the rotary percussion of the rotary. These are different methods to take the hole. We will take the hole and investigate the property of that soil. Okay. So rotary and the rotary percussion method are used for investigating the loose soil. If there is a loose soil, then at that time rotary or the rotary percussion method is used. While the rotary drilling method is used for the rocky soil. If there is a rocky soil, then rotary drilling method is used. Okay. So these methods are used when there is the planning stage. Now, if there is a construction stage, during the construction, we will go for achieving by the driving either the heading or by the driving the drift. Small drift means small passage like the tunnel only, but it is in the small diameter. It is provided instead of the tunnel. Then the total properties of that side. Okay. Now, suppose this much size of the tunnel we need to go for throughout the that area. Okay. So before going for the total size of the tunnel, we will go for the smaller drift like 2 meter by 3 meter hole. Okay. We will construct first one small hole in that. It may be the square, it may be the circular, it may be the rectangular. Mostly 2 by 3 meter is preferred. First we construct that drift, then we will study the parameters of that soil around that total length of the highway. Then what we will do, we will go for the tunnel body. Okay. So the drift driving may be there or the heading may be there. Means what? Only head portion. In this you can see if in this mostly this D section is referred. Okay. In this D section, whatever the upper curved part it is there. In this D section, upper curved part it is there. It is called as heading. Okay. And the bottom rectangular part, whatever it is there, it is called as benching. Okay. Head and bench. Heading, benching. Okay. So it is called as head and bottom part is called as bench. We can go for construction of the head and then investigate the properties of that soil, and then we can go for the setting out the tunnel. How to go for the setting out the tunnel or the alignment of the tunnel? It is done in the 4 stages. See, the first stage is the setting out the tunnel on the ground surface. First, we need to set out the line on the ground. An open traverse between the 2 ends proposed tunnel is done by using the 1 second precision theodolite and the laser pole either. Okay, you might have studied in the survey. First, we need to place the alignment on the ground. Okay, by using the theodolite. Then transfer this center line from the surface to the underground. Okay, and how to transfer this? By taking the shafts. Okay, means circular holes, maybe the rectangular holes, square holes are driven up to the required depth, as the center line is transferred by using that shaft to the required underground depth. As this shaft interval is generally kept as 500 meter. It is depends on the topography of that area, but generally the 500 meter, the distance between the 2 shafts, that is the interval of the shaft, it is kept as 500 meter. Then underground setting out, then by using shaft we have transferred the alignment to the underground. Then now the underground level will be brought to the same center line position by using the fore bearing and the back bearing meters. Okay, we will go for the fore bearing and achieve the next point, and we will go for the back bearing to get the back point also. So by doing the fore bearing and the back bearing, we will underground the setting out that tunnel in the underground. Okay. Then after the setting out the line, we will finally go for the underground tunneling. That may be done by the shield method. That may be go for by the tunnel boring machine. You might have seen the TBM. If you want, I will show you the figure of the TBM. See, This is what the TBM it is there. Tunnel boring machine you can see here in the figure. By using such a machine, the tunnels are driven. In the head, at the head of the TBM, the diamond, uh, like the diamond are placed there so that the hard rock also get cut. So this is the figure of the tunnel boring machine. Also, the whatever the portion that is cut by that machine that can be transferred back by using the such traveler. Okay, so this is what the TBM, tunnel boring machine. You can see the different kind of the tunnel boring machines. By using such a machine, the tunnels are constructed. See how much heavy, big machine is there. Okay. Then the grade in the tunneling. Grade means what? Grade it is required to provide means what slope that may be provided in the one side, that may be provided in the towards from the center point towards the both the point, depending on the length of the tunnel. Okay, so it is required for the ventilation as well. Okay, so grade is required to provide the ventilation as well as to drain out the water as well. Then we will see the methods of tunneling. So in the tunneling, there are two methods: tunneling in the hard rock and tunneling in the soft rock. The major is the tunneling in the hard rock. Okay, the major methods are there in the tunneling in the hard rock. In the soft rock, there are n very number of methods are there. Okay, but tunneling in the hard rock, this is very important. The phase of attack or the operation of for the tunneling in the rock system of a vertical shaft, system of the final tunnel. Okay, we can drive the shaft, vertical shaft, and we can also drive the pilot tunnel. This what? Suppose here we need to go for the tunnel. Along with that tunnel, at the side we will provide a small pilot tunnel. By that providing the pilot tunnel, we can go towards that tunnel and take the total tunneling. Okay. So first one is the system of vertical shafts. In the system of vertical shaft, if suppose n number of shafts that are possible to drive, then 2n plus 2 faces are of attack, including the 2 ends are available. Okay. Suppose we have constructed n number of the shafts, then how much faces are there for attack? Means what? From how much faces we can go for the construction of the tunnel. Now see, suppose I have drawn the shaft here. Okay, I have constructed one shaft here. From this shaft, I can go in this direction. Also, I can go in this direction also. Okay, for the particular one shaft, I have two directions. Okay, so that 2n it is there. For one n is the number of shaft. For one shaft, two direction I have. I can go in this direction. I can go in this direction from that shaft. Okay, so 2n, whatever the number of shafts are there, but from each shaft I can go in the both direction of construction. Okay, आपण दोन्ही डायरेक्शनला टनल आहे तो कन्स्ट्रक्ट करू शकतो shaft. So 2n for number of shaft and plus 2 from end and from start. Okay, from the both end also we can start for the construction of the tunnel. So the 2 is for start point and the end point. From the start point also we can start for the construction. From the end point also we can start for the construction. From the shaft also we can start for the construction. Okay, so how much number of possible faces are there for the construction? 2n plus 2. n is the number of shafts. Then system of the pilot tunnel. Pilot tunnel means what? जर सपोज एखादा टनल आपल्याला कन्स्ट्रक्ट करायचा असेल तर त्या टनलच्या शेजारी आपण काय करतो, लहान असा पायलट टनल आहे तो कन्स्ट्रक्ट करतो आणि त्या पायलट टनल मधून काय करतो, नंतर पाहिजे तिथं जाऊन थोड्या थोड्या अंतरावरती आपण क्रॉस मध्ये जाऊन काय करतो, टनल आहे तो टोटल कन्स्ट्रक्ट करत जातो. ओके, मेन टनलच्या शेजारी लहान टनल कन्स्ट्रक्ट करणं, इट इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड एज constructing the pilot tunnel near to the main tunnel, and after that we can go for the construction of the main tunnel. Okay, by going for the cross. For what purpose it is constructed? To increase the number of faces to construct. Okay, by the first to construct the pilot tunnel. Then after the certain intervals, we can go for the cross. Okay, we can have the number of phases for the construction of that tunnel. Okay. In that, so now you see the methods. There are 4 methods generally adapted for the construction of the tunnel in the hard rock. First is the drift method. Second is the heading and bench method. Third is the full face method, and fourth is the cantilever cap drum method. Okay, so first 3 are mainly used for the construction: drift, head and bench, and full face method. Drift means what? Suppose this is the size of tunnel that we need to go for the construction. So before that, what we will do at the center, we will go for the small size of the tunnel called as drift. First, we will go for the small size of drift throughout the length of the tunnel. Okay, and this is mainly taken as 2 meter by 3 meter size. Okay, and after that, what we will do, we will go for the taking out the full face. Okay, म्हणजेच काय पहिल्यांदा आपण काय करतो, लहान असा एक काय करतो, ड्रिफ्ट तयार करतो पहिल्यांदा, आणि नंतर त्या ड्रिफ्ट मधून सगळ्या बाजूने थोडं 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 कट करत जाऊन आपण काय करतो, पाहिजे त्या शेप मध्ये आपण टनल आहे तो घेत जातो. ओके, so first draw the drift by approximate 2 by 3 meter and then go for the total cutting of the tunnel. And this, whatever the cutting it is done, this is done by the trimmer. Okay, so trimmer will be used to get the required shape of the tunnel. This cutting of the tunnel is done by the trimmer. Means what? पहिल्यांदा आपण काय करतो, ड्रिफ्ट करतो, ड्रिफ्ट कन्स्ट्रक्ट करतो. लहान ड्रिफ्ट म्हणजे लहान टनल 2 by 3 मीटर जवळपास आपण काय करतो, कन्स्ट्रक्ट करतो. आणि त्यानंतर काय करतो, त्याचं जे सगळ्या साईड आहेत त्या कट करत राहतो. ती जी कट करणे आहे साईड, तर आपण ट्रिम करणे म्हणतो. सो ट्रिमर्स आर रिक्वायर्ड फॉर दॅट पर्पज. सो ट्रिमर्स आर रिक्वायर्ड फॉर द required shape of the tunnel, to achieve the required shape of the tunnels. Okay. Then second is the heading and benching. I have now only I have told, suppose my size of shape of the tunnel is D shaped, whatever the curved portion at the top it is there, it is called a head. At the bottom, whatever the rectangular portion is there, it is called as bench. First, what we will do, I will take certain amount of a heading. म्हणजेच काय केलं होतं, पहिल्यांदा जो वरचा पोर्शन आहे थोडा कट केला जातो, नंतर बॉटम पोर्शन थोडा कट केला जातो, टॉप पोर्शन थोडा कट केला जातो, बॉटम पोर्शन थोडा कट केला जातो, स्टेप वाइज टॉप थोडा बॉटम थोडा, टॉप थोडा बॉटम थोडा, असं काय केलं जातं, स्टेप वाइज आपण काय केलं जातो, कटिंग करत जातो आणि आपण टोटल लास्ट पर्यंत जातो. म्हणजे या मेथड मध्ये पूर्णपणे ऍट द एंड पर्यंत हेड जो आहे तो कायम पुढे असतो आणि बेंच जो आहे तो कायम मागे असतो, कारण की आपण हेड पहिल्यांदा कट करतो आणि नंतर बेंच कट करतो. सो head is always ahead than the bench. Okay. In the head and benching method, head is always ahead than the bench. Okay. And the full face method, the third one is the full face. Whatever the amount of face it is there, by providing the exposures, okay, exploding materials, okay, ammonium explosives are there. Such type of the explosives are provided on the full face, and the full face is driven at a time. Okay, एक्सप्लोड करून आपण पूर्ण फेस काढू शकतो. किंवा आता आपण टीबीएम मशीन जशी बघितली, टीबीएम मेथड आपण मशीन आपण फुल फेस करू शकतो. तसंच शिल्ड मेथड पण आहे, शिल्ड मेथड आपण फुल फेस आहे ते आपण टनलची कट करू शकतो. ओके, सो दीज आर द मेथड्स ड्रिवन फॉर द हार्ड रॉक. And the last is the cantilever cap dump method, and it is provided improved arrangement of the throwing muck from the bench. In this method, the improved arrangement only is done what, whatever the muck that is from, म्हणजे काय कन्स्ट्रक्ट करत असताना आपण टनल ज्यावेळेस आपण कट करतो त्यावेळेस काय करतो आपण, जे मटेरियल येणार आहे त्याला मकिंग म्हणतो. जे काढून टाकणे आपण ते मटेरियल त्याला मकिंग म्हणतो. ते मटेरियल जे आहे ते काढून टाकण्याची प्रोसेस आहे ती या मेथड मध्ये प्रोव्हाइड केली असते. हे कशी प्रोव्हाइड केली असते, 2 plates of the girder about 23 meter in length are fixed at the 1.8 meter each at the center distance. म्हणजे याच्यात जे काय कट केलेला पोर्शन आहे तो बाहेर काढून टाकण्यासाठी पण त्याच्यामध्ये प्रोव्हिजन केलेली असते. ते कोणत्या मेथड मध्ये, कॅन्टिलिव्हर कॅप डंप मेथड मध्ये. Then next is the tunneling in the soft rock. Soft rock मध्ये tunneling करण्याचे methods कोणकोणते आहेत? The first is the pore polling method. It is very old method and not used nowadays. Use केली जात नाही. ती खूप old method आहे. Pore polling आहे ती. Second आहे ती needle beam method. Third आहे ती army method, or it is also called as case method. Fourth is the American method. Fifth one is the English method. Sixth is the Belgian method. Seventh is the German. Eighth is the Australian. Then next is the linear plate shield tunneling. Okay, so these are the different methods for tunneling in the soft rock. These are not that much important. You can study. I will provide this notes. You can read. If you have problem, then you can ask me. Okay, so we will move forward for the blasting. Okay, now we have decided the method of tunneling. Okay, now we have decided. First, we have drawn the alignment. We have transferred the alignment. Now we have decided the method. Now we will go how to go for the blasting. So there are different type of the explosives are used for the blasting. That may be the straight dynamite, ammonium dynamite, ammonia gelatins, semi-gelatins, and the blasting agents. That is the ammonium nitrate and fuel oils are used for the blasting purpose. Okay. So these are the materials that are used for the blasting purpose. The straight dynamite, such kind of the explosives are not suitable for the tunneling in the rock because of the poor fume characteristic. Straight dynamite have poor fume character. So in the hard rock it cannot be used. In the ammonium dynamite, they have the two types: high voltage, high density, and the low voltage, low density. Okay, high voltage, high density have the better fume characters, so that can be used in the soft rock. And the low voltage, low density should not be used in the presence of water. If there is a water, then such type of the ammonium dynamite we cannot use there. Ammonia gelatin, this can be fired in the presence of water also. If there is a water condition, in that region we can use the ammonia gelatin, because ammonia gelatin can be fired into the presence of water as well. Then the semi-gelatin, this can be used in the presence of water better than the ammonia gelatin. Then blasting agent that we can use, ammonia nitrate plus the fuel oil or the carbonaceous matter is used as the blasting agent. It is the low in cost and safe but highly sensitive to the water. Okay, so whenever we are going for the blasting, we first need to check whether there is the water. Okay, so depending on that condition, we need to decide which type of the explosive that we can use for there. Okay. Then now we have done the explosion. Now whatever the dust it is created due to the explosion, okay, we need to control that dust, because that dust will hamper our health issue. Whatever the laborers which are working there at the site, it will create the health issue to that laborers. The concentration of the dust should not be greater than 450 particles per centimeter cube, or 0.5 micron to 5 micron. Okay, this should be the concentration of the dust. It should be below this. The dust accumulate due to the drilling, blasting, and heading of the mug. Dust accumulate जे आपण हे करणार आहे, पहिल्यांदा काय करतो आपण ड्रिलिंग, ब्लास्टिंग नंतर, आणि नंतर काय करतो आपण हँडलिंग द मग. जे काय मटेरियल आहे ते आपण काय करतो काढून टाकतो. मकिंग मीन्स व्हॉट इज द मटेरियल इट इज देअर टू टेक आउट दॅट मटेरियल इज कॉल्ड एज मकिंग. Okay. It will create the health risk if the concentration of the dust is not controlled. Okay, if the concentration of the dust is not controlled, it will affect on our health. If suppose with the dust, if we there is the silica in that dust, and if we inhale the silica dust, what will happen? It will create the serious disease to the lungs. Okay, if there is the presence of silica in the dust, it will create the disease to the lung called as siliceous. Okay, silicosis. Okay, so it creates the problem to the dust called as silicosis, which is the fatal. It can, the death can be happen due to this also. So silicosis, this is the disease of the lung due to the presence of silica into the dust. Okay, when human workers are exposed to the high pressure, the Cashian disease is likely to occur. If we are working in the high pressure zone in the tunnel, then due to the high pressure, Cashian diseases may be arise. So this we need to go for the dust control. Okay, and what are the methods that we are used for the dust control? Wet drilling, use of the vacuum hood, and use of the reciprocal respirators. Sorry. Use of the respirators. First one is what? Wet drilling. Simple method. Whenever we are going for the explosion, first wet that area. Due to wetting, what will happen? The dust will be not there. Okay, you might have observed when we sprayed the water on the dust area, then if we go for the blasting, then the dust, whatever the dust is produced, it will be the less. So simply we can go for the spreading the water on the area. Second is the use of the vacuum hose. Okay, we can provide the vacuum hose. When the blasting will be there, vacuum hose should be there. It will take all the dust. Okay, as like our vacuum pump, vacuum pressure pump, it is there in our household. When we go for the explosion, then whatever the dust it is created there, it can be taken out or sucked out by the vacuum hose. Okay, and third method is by the using the reciprocal. Whichever the laborers, whoever are working there, provide the respirator to that workers. Okay, if you provide the respirators, there is no chances of dust inhaling. Okay. So these are the simple three methods. First one is the wetting that area by sprinkling the water. Second is by providing the hot vacuum hood, and third is nothing but by providing the respirators to the workers. Then tunnel lighting, this is not for our syllabus. And next is the ventilation in the tunnel. Okay, next one is the ventilation that we need to provide in the tunnel. The techniques of providing the fresh air inside the tunnel during and after the construction is known as the ventilation. Okay, ventilation is nothing but what? Providing the fresh air into the tunnel. Okay, ventilation is very important parameter. If suppose the length of tunnel is less, then what will happen? The natural ventilation can be possible. But when the tunnel length is more, then it is must or necessary to provide the ventilation into the tunnel. Okay, so how much volume it is required in the tunnel? So during the working, each worker should be supplied with the 6 meter cube to 14 meter cube of the fresh air per minute per meter square constantly in the working area. Okay, whenever there is the working into the tunnel, one should assure that the worker should be supplied with the 6 meter cube to the 14 meter cube of the fresh air per minute per meter square in that area constantly. Okay, this much amount of the air we need to provide in that area. Any compressed air used for the drills is usually contaminated with the oil and the dust when released from the drills. Okay, if there is a compressed air, it is there used in the tunneling, then whenever we are using the compressed air for the drills, it is used contaminated with the oils, okay, and dust when the released from the drills. The time lapse between the exploding charge and the commencing the mucking will be about 30 minutes. Means what? When we do the exploding and when we go for the mucking, the time lapse between these two conditions should be up to 30 minutes. Means what? Go for the explosion, wait for 30 minutes, and then go for the mucking process so that the dust will be there controlling condition. Then methods of ventilation. What are the methods? First one is the natural method, and second one is the mechanical ventilation. In the natural method, the most important is the natural method is provided where there is a short length of the tunnels are there. If the length of tunnel is less, natural ventilation is provided. And it is achieved how? Due to the difference between the temperature outside and the inside of the tunnel by providing the shafts at the regular intervals. Okay, we can achieve the natural ventilation by providing the shafts at the regular interval. When the drift are driven from the portal to portal, means what? At the certain intervals we need to provide the drift. Okay. When the tunnel is short and its diameter is large, then the natural ventilation can be achieved. When the orientation of the tunnel is along the wind direction, okay, in the direction of the wind, if the orientation of the tunnel it is there, then the natural ventilation can be easily achieved. Okay, but if such conditions are not there, then we need to go for the mechanical ventilation. And mechanical ventilation is provided by blowing or the plenum process, means what? Blowing the air, fresh air, exhausting where vacuum pressure, vacuum process means what? Whatever the hot air it is there, it can be exhausted out. First one is the blowing the fresh air, second is the exhausting the hot air. Okay, and third one that is mostly used, that is the combination of these both, blowing and exhausting process. The most efficient method of ventilation means what? We can provide the blowing, okay, and we can exhaust the whatever the objectionable air it is there. Okay, exhausting system operates for 15 to 30 minutes. 15 to 30 minute process. It will take 15 to 30 minutes time to operate this process. This what? Blow the fresh air. Okay, first take out the removable or the remove out the objectionable air, after which blowing of the fresh air to the system. Okay, for the 15 to 30 minutes. When we provide the ventilation for the passengers, it is called as primary ventilation. And when we provide the ventilation for the plants, it is called as secondary ventilations. Okay. Note down this. Ventilation for the passenger is called as primary ventilation, and ventilation for the plants is called as secondary ventilation. Then what are the equipments required for the ventilation? Fans, then the pipes of the different types like the wire reinforced fabrics, riveted or the welded steel pipes, or the cloth fabric pipes can be used. And the size of this pipe is varies from 100 to 750 mm. Coupling the joints of the pipe should be airtight. Okay. So these we can provide the fans, we can provide the exhaust. These are the equipments that are the required for the ventilation. Then ventilation may be the permanent ventilation when the length of the tunnel is greater than 750 meter. Okay, when the length of the tunnel is more than 750 meter, we need to provide the permanent ventilation in that tunnel. Okay, if suppose the carbon CO, that is carbon oxide percentage, is less than 0.02, it will not affect on our human health. But suppose if the CO percentage is 0.04%, it will face the uneasiness. Okay, when we respirate the carbon oxide with the percentage of 0.04, it will feels us like a uneasiness. Okay, if the same amount of inhaling is carried out for 1.5 hours, then human being develop the headache. The headache will be developed if we go on continuing respirating amount of CO 0.04% for 1.5 hours. Then if this process is continue more than 2 hours, the human may get unconsciousness. Okay. And suppose if the CO percentage increases above 0.06%, then it inhales and it inhales for 2.5 hours and more than 2.5 hours, then what will happen? It gives the fatal condition for the human being. That may be converted into the death of that human being also. Okay. So when there is necessary to provide the ventilation in the tunnel. System of method of permanent ventilation, we can go for the longitudinal system of the ventilation, transverse ventilation, combination of the both longitudinal and the transverse. Then also whenever we are constructing the tunnel, also we need to give some noise restriction into the tunnel. That is the noise pollution control also we need to go for. When the noise is above the 100 to the 105 decibel, it produces discomfortable condition for the passenger. Okay. If the noise is more than 100 or 105 dB, dB means decibel. If it is more than 100 decibel, it will create the discomfortable condition for the passenger. So for that purpose, we need to install the resonators. Okay, to reduce the noise in the tunnels, the resonators are installed at the particular interval of the length. Okay, and these resonators are installed at the crown position. That's what. Suppose this is the upper part. At this crown position, we will place the resonators at the certain intervals. Then we need to convey the whatever the exploding materials is there, it will be taken out. Such method is called as mucking. Mucking is the process of removal of a blasted debris or the soil from the tunnel interior to the sites outside the tunnel. Okay. Previously, it will be done by the manual labor. Okay. Manually, it is done by previously, but in the modern areas, modern tunneling machines are like conveying ladders, and the IMPO will be used for the removing of the mud. Okay. In the modern areas, conveying ladders are used. In the previous many years ago, manual by the laborers manually the mucking were done. But nowadays conveying ladders are there. We can simply put the material on the ladder. It will take that material to the outside. Then note, to support 1 feet height of the water, compressed air of the 0.43 lb per square inch is required. 1 lb per square inch is the lb is nothing but the pressure unit. Okay, lb is per square inch means what? Pound per square inch. The pound weight, like the pressure in the pound, if we measure the pressure in the pounds, then the unit is lb per square inch. Okay, if we measure the pressure in the pound. Okay. So how much compressed air is required for the, if there is the compressed air? Okay. Suppose 1 feet height water it is there, compressed air required is 0.43 lb per square inch. How much duration of the work is compressed air for the labors? If suppose there is a compressed air, how much duration of the work should be there? Suppose it is 18 lb per square inch compressed pressure air it is there. So working period should be of 8 hours with the at least half hour of the free air. Okay. If the suppose the pressure is up to the 20 lb per square inch to the 30, then the working period should be reduced to the 4 hours with the providing the 2 hours of the fresh air. And if suppose the compressed air in the tunneling volume free air provided is 6 meter cube per minute per meter square. Okay, how much fresh air is required to provide? 6 meter cube per minute per meter square. This much amount of the fresh air we need to provide in the tunnel. Okay. Then drainage of the tunnel. Okay. Now we have constructed the tunnel, but suppose if there is a water, maybe there into the tunnel, tipping of the water, then we need to go for the providing the drainage system. So pre-drainage, first one is the pre-drainage, preventing the entry of the excess water from the entering the tunnel before starting the construction. Means what? From the outside area, from the surface layer of the subsurface soil, the water may get entered into the tunnel. Okay, so first that we need to go for the drainage of that water, so that that water should not get entered into the tunnel. Okay, that is called as pre-drainage. Second is the dewatering and the pumping, removing of the water that has entered the tunnel during the construction of the tunnel. Okay, during the construction, suppose water is entered into the tunnel, so this the temporary method of drainage is achieved with the dewatering by the pumping. Okay, pump should be installed there, and whatever the amount of water it is there, that should be get taken off. This is temporary drainage system. The dewatering is done by providing the pumps. The simplest method of the removing the water by the drawing through the open drains or the ditches constructed along the tunnel on the both side. Okay, dewatering. How we can go for the dewatering? We can simply provide the open drains along the length. Okay, in the tunnel from the both side, so that the whatever the water it is there, it can be gravity. By the gravity, that can be taken out. And second one is by using the pumping. We can install the pump and we can take out the quantity of water, whatever it is accumulated there, that should be collected in the common sump. And then we can install the pump there, and from that sump we can take out the water. The sump well also helps to settlement of the solid material. If we construct the sump to collect the water, also if the soil particles are there along with the water in the sump, it will help to settle on the soil particles at the bottom. Sumps are located with the spacing of 300 to 500 meter. Okay, at this with the spacing of 300 to 500 meters, the sumps are located at the wet spot, and the steel pipes of the diameter varying 80 to 150 mm are used for taking out the water. Okay. In the pumping, we need to provide the sumps to collect the water at the one position. Then we install the pump at that sump. Okay. Sump is constructed along the length of tunnel at the regular interval of 300 to 500 meter. Okay. Then permanent drainage we can also provide by keeping the water off the tunnel after the construction. The central drain can be also be covered with the facility for the inspection and the cleaning. Okay, like we are providing the central drain on the roads, on the highway. We have seen the central drain system. Such type of the central drain also we can provide on the in the highway. Sorry, in the tunnel by providing the manholes at the regular interval of the 30 to 50 meters. Okay. If the suppose the water is trickle continuously from the roof of the tunnels, if the water is trickling from the roof of the tunnel, then at that place, what we can do, we can provide the false roof. Okay, like a false ceiling. False roof is provided there by using the corrugated galvanized iron sheets, and the water is diverted towards the drains. Okay, suppose the water is trickling from the crown portion, then what we'll do, like a false ceiling, we'll provide the false roof there by the galvanized iron sheet. Whatever the water that is trickling, that will be drained out at the straight drains. Likewise, permanent drainage system we can provide. And the last point of this chapter is tunnel lining. Okay, the last point is the tunnel lining. Finishing touch given to the cross section of the tunnel, that is called as tunnel line. And the minimum thickness of the tunnel lining should be T minimum should be greater than 230 mm. Okay, how much minimum tunnel lining, like when we are constructing the canal, we have seen the canal lining of the concrete is provided. Okay. Likewise, lining of the tunnel also we should go for. And this minimum thickness of this lining is minimum 230 mm. Means lining of the tunnel T minimum should be greater than 230 mm. A thumb rule for the obtaining the appropriate thickness of lining is to keep 25 mm of every 300 mm diameter tunnel. Okay. For each 300 mm diameter, 25 mm thickness it is provided. This is thumb rule. Okay, not a definitely formula, but it is thumb rule obtained is for the each 300 mm diameter, 250 mm thickness is provided. In empirical formula, we can have an empirical formula for thickness. T is equal to 82 into D, where T is the thickness in mm and capital D is the diameter of the tunnel in meter. This is R21 cementitious 15. T of thickness of tunnel lining is equal to 82 into capital D. Capital D is the diameter in the meter. Okay. Suppose in the subaqueous region it is there, then the tunnel lining can be done by the cast iron if the subaqueous region it is there. We can take down this. This is the last point of our chapter. Here we have completed our last chapter, that is tunnel engineering. Okay. Now we have successfully completed our syllabus. Now we take down this tunnel lining formula. This is important. Also, I will provide these notes to you. Okay, we will stop here only. You can mark your attendance in the chat box, then you can left. Mark your attendance to the chat box, then you can left.